Boys will be boys. No doubt you've heard such gendered idioms before. It's an idiotic idiom, but it is one that seems to have had a distinguished career in all boys schools. Now, it can be hard to tell whether such idioms reflect any semblance of a perceived difference between boys' and girls' education, or whether they're instrumental in shaping that difference. After all boys schools are often criticized for producing particular kinds of men, men that will go on to play rugby or have a career in finance. Historically, all boys schools have seen this as their biggest draw card in the educational marketplace. Give us your son, and we'll give you a man. But what happens when people are no longer interested in such gender distinctions anymore? I mean, don't girls play rugby now too? And haven't we started moving beyond gendered career trajectories like boys do money and girls do childcare? What happens when this education marketplace starts to respond to wider rejections of traditional gender norms? Suddenly, schools start to realize that being single sex is no longer the signifier of success it once was. So, when an all boys school makes that switch to co ed, for whatever reason, what happens to the historical and cultural side of gender production? More importantly, what happens to the students? Now, such phenomena are usually researched after the fact, if they're documented at all. However, in the world's first single case study of its kind, I've observed and documented an all boys school's transition to co ed from the inside as it's happened. My PhD draws on interviews with students and teachers, my own personal observation as a resident teacher, and a deconstruction of various school artifacts to provide snapshots of gendered culture dynamics at the school before, during, and after its transition to co-ed. So far, the findings of my research confirm that gender plays a huge role in the culture of a learning environment. But more importantly, the findings suggest that there are overwhelming benefits associated with transitioning to coeducational spaces, the biggest of which being the opportunity it provides students to internalize a less rigid and hierarchical gendered culture. This in turn leads to less boys will be boys and more students will be themselves. Now, the conversation surrounding single sex versus coeducation still ends up getting dominated by problematic discussions of academic outcomes. My research suggests that perhaps it's time to move away from prioritizing desired academic outcomes in favor of the desired cultural ones. This, however, implicates an unsettling conclusion. It would herald the death of the single sex school.